Hi everyone, I'm Hunter Nagel, and for our second debate for our English composition course, I was given and assigned the topic of the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, this is a very controversial topic, and it's very relevant to today because that's one of the biggest things going on in our society right now with the election and everything going on. It's a very popular issue. Now, there's two sides to this argument. There's the positive, which means it's just spreading a positive message, doing positive things for the community, all that in general. Just being a good protest, good movement that's spreading good images. The other side, the contrary, is that it's a negative movement and it's causing destruction, violence, and spreading a negative message and false messages and putting a bad example out into our communities. That's the side I was given, was the negative. So today I'm going to give you 3 arguments that will show why the Black Lives Matter movement is negative. Now, for our first argument, my first argument is that the Black Lives Matter movement overall is not peaceful. There's a lot of violence that goes on in our communities. There's lots of property destruction, things getting burned down, people getting killed, people getting assaulted, all of that good stuff. And it's resulting from the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, there's an article written from thecritical.co.cl, that states, it's by Bruce Newsom, it states that in the first 2 weeks after the death of George Floyd, protests cost $1 to $2 billion of insured property damage. And in 3 calendar months, more than 30 people were killed and 14,000 people arrested in American protests alone. So this just goes to show from the Critical that when these movements are taking place, there's a lot of people breaking laws because they're not peacefully assembling, which is why 14,000 people were arrested. There's people getting killed because of the violence. There's the 30 people that have died in just 3 weeks. That's 10 people a week that have died because of these protests. And $1 to $2 billion of insured property damage, which insured property damage is just what's insured. So I guarantee you it costs way more than $1 to $2 billion of damage realistically that was not insured. But it's just they're burning things, they're destroying property, causing innocent people that just live in those neighborhoods and those big cities where the protests are being occurred. It's forcing them to go out and have to fix all their buildings and stuff because people want to come by and destroy them. Now, many people say that, the Black Lives Matter movement is peaceful. It may seem like that, and yes, there are some Black Lives Matter protests that are peaceful, but the bad ones that cause all this damage and the killings and the arrest in society large outweigh the good, which overall means that the movement is showing more violence than it is peace, which is not a good effect on our community. The second argument is that the Black Lives Matter movement is spreading the incorrect message, and it's making African Americans look bad right now in the general population, because instead of spreading the idea that all Black Lives Matter and that not all cops are bad and all this, it's saying that it's just that cops are killing African Americans, which is not true at all. There's an article written on spiked.com that states that, hold on. The Black Lives Matter movement was to a striking degree based on false claims, supported by dubious anecdotes, and actually responsible for an upsurge in violent crimes. It is hard to avoid a brutal but accurate one-sentence epitaph. Black Lives Matter got a lot of young brothers killed. This just goes to show, just like with the violence, that because they're spreading the wrong movement, a lot of innocent African Americans are getting killed because of this. And it's really just the message. They just need to spread a better message that if they spread a better message, less people will die. They just said that we need equality for all, that there's a little injustice in our society instead of all cops are bad. black black police lives don't matter, all that, a lot of innocent people would be spared because there wouldn't be so much misconception within the community. Now, many people might say that, well, they're not saying that police lives don't matter. They're just saying that black lives are a more appropriate and current conversation that needs to be talked about because of the oppression and racism that goes on in the United States. While yes, that might be true, in the general public, it's getting the Black Lives Matter movement a bad rap because they're not including those other people in the conversation. And it's just making people question, like, why do all these other people not matter, but you guys do so much? We get it. You guys have been wrongfully done, but you guys got to include everyone in that if you want us to include you. And then the third and final argument is that the Black Lives Matter movement has divided America. Now, you may ask how that is done. Well, you might think the protests are causing unity and all that, but when in fact, it is causing division because the misconception is that everyone in America has the same opinion, when that is not true at all. So when you try to make your opinion and force it on everyone else, it's just going to divide the community. The Black Lives Matter movement is trying to, through the media and their outlets and violence, trying to push that these things need to be changed and it's so wrong and cops are bad, when not all of America thinks that. And people at the end of the day are entitled to all their opinions. Yes, we should have equality for all, and that's a fact, but you can't force anyone to think what you think at the end of the day. And then this article by VOA News says the American identity comes through common beliefs laid out in the Declaration of Independence, which is celebrated. People in this country who have felt marginalized or oppressed or cut out of the American dream have always used the 4th of July as an occasion to claim their membership in the nation, claim their freedom and liberty. Basically, he's saying the 4th of July is a thing that unites us as one because everyone can be American on that day. But the Black Lives Matter movement has made 4th of July and all these other national holidays less significant because they're saying when these holidays were established, they were still in slavery, these other things, which is true. But at the end of the day, you're going to divide the country because we've fixed most of those mistakes. Yes, we have a long way to go and it's not perfect, but we fixed most of those mistakes. So the older heads, the older people, like the grandparents, the great-grandparents, lived in a different time, are just going to feel divided. And most of the, I wouldn't say redneck, but the white community that is very patriotic is going to feel a little disgusted because they're trying to make American holidays seem less than they actually are to spread their movement. Now, people may say, well, that is true. Those holidays were established when slaves were around. Oppression of Black Americans was at an all-time high. All that, but yes, it was, but things have changed now. It's better. You just got to look at that, and you can't destroy the holiday because things aren't perfect. And then yeah, so overall, I believe that the Black Lives Matter movement is a negative. Yes, there are some positives, but overall it just spreads a negative message. As I will go through my 3 points really quickly again, there is more violence than there is peace throughout the communities when these protests take place. They're spreading the wrong message instead of spreading that we need equality for all and that Black lives need to stop being killed innocently. They're spreading that all cops are bad, which is not a good message to send. And thirdly, they're giving American holidays such as the 4th of July a bad rap, which is overall just making the older generations and a lot of Americans feel like the Black Lives Matter movement is not patriotic in a way. So, yeah. That's my Black Lives Matter, why Black Lives Matter is negative debate, I guess arguments and counter arguments. Thank you.